competitiveness of Alberta's industry. This is the demand graph, and right there, that flat line, it's sort of greeny-gray, that is the actual amount of electricity we consumed. So you can see we trended flat. We're not trending up. All these lines are the government's prediction as to how the load demand, how much electricity will be needed in the future, okay? And so the industrial guys, they predict that too, because they want to make sure there's enough generation and enough transmission to get the power to them. And they looked at this and they said, this makes no sense. And they even say here, it is difficult for us, I think I might have a blow for this one. No. They say it's difficult for us to understand how AESO, the system operator, believes electricity consumption in the next 8 years will grow by 27,000 gigawatt hours when the growth in the past has only been approximately 5,000 gigawatt hours. The forecast is missing common sense. And what they really focus in on is, again, this flat line and how the reality's been flat and all the trend lines for the government are up. Well, I've researched and read every report, study, commentary that I can find on this as I've tried to get my head around this whole issue of why this is happening. And I can actually answer their question as to where those lines come from. The AESO, if any of you talk to your MLA about this, their first response is going to be, the reason we approved all these lines is because AESO said so, the Alberta Electric System Operator. And they'll say specifically that AESO said we needed to do this in their long-term transmission system plan. And they may, if they write you a letter, I've seen their form letters, they'll say AESO did a detailed economic analysis taking credible economic data from sources such as the Conference Board of Canada to make this prediction as to power demand going like this, and hence we got to build all these lines. And throughout this report, they do say that they looked at all this economic data, and they always tell you, for that data, go to Appendix C, Appendix C, Appendix C. So you go to Appendix C and you see the data. And you see the trend line. That angle look familiar to anybody? That's the trend line. But look at this, and this is just illustrates how strange this all is. I had to struggle for a polite word there. Conference Board of Canada, so 2 data points. Conference Board of Canada, March 2000, GDP. Conference Board of Canada, GDP, March 2008. Remember what happened in 2006? The economy was on fire. 2007, the economy was still on fire. In early 2008, it was crazy. We were going to hit, I don't know, $500 a barrel oil. There's no stop in demand. Everything was great. Did something happen? Did I miss something? Well, apparently a bunch of people in government did, like the deepest recession that the Western world has encountered in our modern history. So that's what they said the world was going to do, just keep right on going. So where did that line come from? It came from that report. So this is how they made their decision. I don't know enough about cattle marketing. I know just a little bit enough to be dangerous, but I wonder what would happen to a producer that sold in the spring and got a really good price, and then sold in the fall and got a really good price, and did a trend line, and did all his business planning assuming that trend was going to keep going. How long would that guy be in business? Not probably very long. So, anyway, here's where it gets scary. They had said in their earlier stuff in 2009, they said if you go ahead with this, you're going to triple our power costs, and some places they talk about quadrupling them, and our businesses won't be competitive. Our competitors will be able to produce at a lower cost, our profits will go down, we can pipe it, truck it, or rail it out of here and produce it somewhere else at a lower cost, and that's what we're going to have no choice but to do. We want to stay here, we love Alberta, but you're going to give us no choice, so please don't do this. And the government said, no, we know better, we're going to go ahead and do it. So here's, look at this. They say demand response will increase cost impact on remaining consumers. They say, so how will Alberta business respond to the tripling of their electricity rates? And they say Alberta businesses are already investigating mitigation strategies. So some of these big companies have said, you're not going to listen to us, you're leaving us no choice, we got to make some decisions, we got to do some planning. And some of the things they're working on is, the big guys who can do it, is generate electricity behind the fence. So if they co-generate or put a big generator at their plant because they're petrochemical and they've got off gases they can burn, that means they're off the grid and they don't have to pay anything for the transmission. Okay? But and let's use simple numbers. What happens if there's 100 people who pay for the transmission, 100 industries that pay for the transmission? And that means the total cost is spread out over them. Well, what happens if 30 of them go off the grid? That means the other 70 have to pick up the other guy's share, okay? So they say, and that's how they say it's actually what's going to happen. With all these guys going off the grid, you're actually going to see the demand line go down because they're going to be producing their own electricity. And remember, these guys use a lot of electricity. So they say first thing is generating electricity on their own property. And the second one's the one that scares me, and is the reason why I'm here and the reason I'm doing this. Shifting production and jobs outside of Alberta. So some of these plants and bigger companies are looking at where they can move on and pick up somewhere else, and reducing investment in Alberta. So they say if they all, this is about, did I go backwards there? No, I didn't. If all the projects follow this example, they did an analysis of how the costs are being higher than even were predicted. They're saying that the expenditures could inflate to $20 billion. At the, you can see the letter, for those of you up close, it's signed by Sheldon Fulton, IPCA Executive Director, Colette Chiquita, ADC Executive Director. And I'll just highlight the last sentence, or paragraph. And where it's bolded, that was their bolding, that wasn't mine. We simply cannot afford this transmission development plan, and it is unnecessary. We ask that you, the MLAs, the government, take steps to stop this irresponsible spending program and conduct a prudent level of assessment before it's too late. As representatives of Alberta's citizens, please seek a lower cost solution to our transmission needs or find a different way to pay for it. Alberta's competitiveness is at risk. Their words, not mine. Okay? So, shortly after this letter arrived, Premier Stelmach spoke at the Chamber of Commerce in Sherwood Park and said, we need to go ahead with these lines. We need to do this because building this infrastructure will give us great infrastructure, and it will grow, allow Alberta's economy to grow. And if we don't do it, he said the lights will go out. So, that's why I wanted you to know about Bill 50. So what can you do? You know, so what we have here is these Bill 50 lines, if they wouldn't have passed Bill 50, and they would have had these lines go into the public hearing process of the Utilities Commission, they would have never been approved. There's just no way. And the Utilities Commission in the past has denied lines where they've said, remember back to my joke about my wife and I, right? Where they've said, no, 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 you don't need that line, you just want it, okay? And as you can tell, there's no need for these lines. So what troubles me about this is, you know, and I had said this before, and somebody corrected me the other day, you know, it seems to me that if this burden is placed on our economy, you know, will that cause the packing plants to stay open, or will it cause them to close? Well, what impact will that have on the viability? Somebody last night gave a great example of what it will do to the profitability of crop production on an irrigated quarter. What will it mean to the businesses that in the smaller communities that rely on some of these major industrial employers? And when I looked at it, I concluded that this could really change Alberta, and could change it in a very bad way. And at first I just thought, oh God, I hope somebody picks this up and does something about it, because I didn't really want to. And then I got, you know, I think I had my, was reading my 6-year-old a bedtime story, and I kind of went, well, wait a second. I've had a lot